record. So, all right. So, good morning again, and like I said, happy end of the week since there's no class tomorrow. So, here is the deal for today. Like I said, only one more week left after this week, so I want to kind of go over what the final product is going to be, what that's going to look like, what you need to do, and then give everybody a refresher of checkpoint two. And then the rest of the time, just kind of give to you guys to work on stuff, right? So go ahead and log on to Summit if you're able to right now, if you haven't already, okay? And then you can pull up uh, our final products. We can go over, what that is and what that looks like. So I'm going to put it in the chat here. So you're looking for, if I can remember how to spell. All right. Scene analysis paper on Summit. It's going to be the one with the little star there. Now, if you click it, you might see a little red message that says your teacher has created a new version. Don't worry about that. Just click on the one that you have there, and you want to click on the regular one, not the one that says draft. Okay, so like you can just excuse me. You can see I'm sharing my screen right now. When you go to our class on Summit and find our project page to stage, right? When you get there, it looks like this. So scroll down and you'll see scene analysis paper is the last one with the star, right? Then you might see that little red message. Don't worry about that. And now you'll see this one says draft. We don't want that. We want this one. So the filled in star, not the empty star. Okay. Click this link right here, and then it should bring you to a page that looks like this. All right. I'll give everybody a minute or so here to pull that up. If you got it, let me know in the chat so I know you're there. All right. But this is where we are going right now. Again, on Summit, scene analysis paper, you want the filled in star at the bottom is the final product, and then it should bring you to a page that looks like this. Okay. So like I said, I'll give everybody maybe another minute to pull that up. You can let me know in the chat if you got it, so I know that you are in the right place. Your screen should look like mine. And how we doing? We're finding this. Everybody got it? Everybody has this pulled up. One more time. If not, you're going on to our class on Summit, Drama Yes Philly, page to stage is our project, and then you want to scroll down all the way to the bottom where you see the star right here, scene analysis paper, and then you want this one, not the draft, the regular one, the filled in star, okay? If you see that little red message up here, don't worry about that. And then just bring you a page, it looks like this, all right? I haven't heard questions or concerns from anybody, so I'm going to assume everybody is there, all right? Now, we can see there is a prompt here, and then there's some kind of more directions that we'll break down in a sec, all right? So the prompt says you will write a paper that closely and carefully analyzes one of the major scenes in the film Fences, directed by Denzel Washington. If you have your own scene in mind, you may use that one. If not, use the scene from Checkpoint 2. All right. Your paper will have three main parts. So before we get into the breakdown there of the different parts, um, basically what we're doing here is taking a scene from the movie that we watched, all right, and we're basically just kind of breaking it down over, 5 paragraphs or so, and telling me kind of, a little overview of the context of the scene, all right, and the what the theme might be that presents itself, um, you know, and then you're going to kind of go over that scene in detail. Tell me what happens. Tell me who says what. Tell me why that's important for the theme, what it means, right? And then lastly, you're going to connect that theme. So essentially, what you're doing is taking what we did in checkpoint two, and now you're just putting it into kind of like essay form. All right. Questions so far about anything? Cool. Right. So now this part that it says right here, right? If you have your own scene in mind, you may use that one. If not, use the scene for checkpoint two. What I mean by that is if you have a scene from the movie in mind that really kind of stuck with you, that you remember well enough, that you want to kind of use for this final product, by all means use that one. Like maybe you liked the last scene at the end where Gabriel blows the trumpet and the skies kind of open up, right? Or maybe you liked the scene where Troy and Rose are kind of arguing, in the backyard after he tells her he's had an affair, all right? But if you can't remember any of those, or if you don't have one that really sticks out to you, then what you can do is you can, go back here to checkpoint two, all right? Which I should now have completed from you. If you don't, then make sure you're working on that to get caught up, all right? Yeah, let me reload this real quick. All right, back to checkpoint two, and you can use this scene that we worked on for checkpoint two, where Corey asks Troy, "How come you never liked me?" And then he kind of gives Corey this big speech. All right, that's why we did this checkpoint first, so that if you can't think of a scene on your own that you'd like to do for the final product, you can use this one because we've already kind of annotated it and explored the word choice and the theme and things like that. All right. So once you pick your scene, you're going to kind of go through in essay form these three parts. All right. You should have an introduction, which it says here is an overview of the context of the scene and the identification of the theme. Right. When we say context of the theme, or excuse me, context of the scene, what might that mean? Does anybody have a guess as to what it might mean when we're talking about the context of the scene? Think about like if you've heard the phrase context clues before, and you've also heard me mention that phrase once or twice. So what does that mean? What are we talking about when we say the context of the scene? Any thoughts or guesses there, either in the chat or coming off mute? If we're talking about the context of a scene, any thoughts or guesses on what that might mean? Anybody out there with me today?
What you say?
I asked. Let me turn my volume back up. I asked when we're talking about In the introduction, give an overview of the context of the scene. What does that phrase mean when we're talking about the context of a scene? What are we doing? What are we talking about there?
The context you said,
Mm-hmm.
ain't that like? Ain't I was about to say, ain't just like theme or something?
It could lead to the theme, yeah, but it's more kind of like giving an overview of the background of the scene. So if we're giving an overview of the context of the scene, that would mean, okay, where in the context of the movie is this scene taking place? In other words, what do we need to know about this scene for us to understand what's going to happen? So this is where you would explain, like, okay, Troy is an African American man who is a garbage truck driver, and he's kind of very cold and distant toward his family. Like, he's hardworking, blue collar, etc., etc. And then you might explain something about how Corey kind of wants to, live his own life and not be in Troy's shadow. Anything that will help the reader understand what's going to happen, as if they've never seen the movie before. So when we talk about the context of the scene, that's what we're talking about. It's like, um, you know, what is the background of this scene? Where does it fit in relation to the rest of the movie? What do we have to know to understand this? All right, and there's context in everything. Like, if you're in social studies class and you're reading an article, they might give you the context of the article, the historical context, meaning, like, okay, when this was written, it was this year, and this war was going on, or this movement was going on, and that led to people having these beliefs or whatever it might be. So that's what context is. It's just kind of the background of what's going on and what you need to know to understand it. So you want to do that in your introduction. Okay. The next part you want to have, and like you can see parentheses here, I'm kind of telling you how long each of these parts should be. So next part's going to be your scene study. It's going to be about 2 to 4 paragraphs. All right. This is going to be an explication, which basically just means you're breaking it down, of the scene itself, with a focus on the language and word choice used in the scene and how it develops the key characters and advances the plot. Now, that might sound familiar because we've already done that exact same thing in checkpoint 2. See how that goes together? So, like I said, if you don't have a scene of your own in mind, you can use the scene from checkpoint 2, because you've already done a lot of this stuff already. Now you're just putting it into paragraph form. So you want to kind of explain to me in complete sentences, you know, how does the language that they use in this scene, how do the words they use, develop the characters themselves? How does it push the plot forward? All right, and things like that. And that's maybe like 2 to 4 paragraphs. Okay. And then lastly, your connection to the theme, a clear explanation of how this scene fits into the overall plot structure of the play. That should say movie, sorry, and how it serves to develop a major theme. So if you go back to the stuff for checkpoint 1, right, where we were talking about theme statements, and okay, what are some of the themes and messages, morals that we learn from this movie? All right, explain how this scene connects to those. How does it support those with some of the word choice and the structure and that sort of stuff. So basically, when I read this, I should be able to, so imagine if I've never seen the movie before, I don't know anything about it, I should read this and be able to understand how one specific scene develops a certain theme in this movie. That's basically what you're doing here, and you're doing it all in essay form, complete sentences. Like, you can see, make sure you're looking at mechanics, spelling, formatting, all that stuff. All right. And then, like it says, please delete this page when you finish writing. So what you can do is, if you're working on this and you want to start writing right underneath the directions, when you're done, make sure you go up and just kind of highlight all this stuff and just hit delete, so that when I when you submit your uh, final product, I'm only getting your essay. Okay. Questions on anything with that final product? Does that make sense? Are we unsure about anything? Now is the time to let me know. All right. If I don't hear anything, then I'm going to assume we're good to go. So the other thing we are working on still is, if you haven't finished it yet, whoop, not that, checkpoint two, right? Now, most of you that are here have been here with me and started on this if you haven't already finished it. And there's more recordings on YouTube of me going over this, so you can always check those out. But again, you're looking at this scene from the movie, annotating it, looking for these two things: word choice and theme. All right. And the way you would annotate this would be kind of highlighting the words or phrases that you see. All right. So you can go up here, make it yellow, and then I'm going to turn my highlight off, jot some notes down next to it. Okay. And then you would continue to do that through the rest of the scene. And like I said, there is an example of me doing that on the class recording from last week on YouTube. So you can always check there to get caught up. And again, the two things you're looking for here on this checkpoint are going to be the things you need to include in your final product. So these kind of work hand in hand. So make sure that you have done checkpoint two before you start your final product. All right. So what I need from you to be totally caught up, to be passing this class, is your filmmaking web quest from a while ago, which I think I have for most of you in here. Checkpoint one, completed, checkpoint two completed, and then the final product we just went over today. Okay. Now, your last progress report is going to come out next week, next Monday or Tuesday. All right. So I'll be putting those grades in um, tomorrow. You guys got a couple extra days since um, we aren't having our assembly this week. So that means if you still haven't finished checkpoint two, even though it was already due, if you finish it today, you might be able to still squeak it in there for the progress report if I have it by first thing tomorrow morning. Okay, and then next week, end of the term is next Friday, so I have to have everything by end of day Friday. Okay, questions on anything? All right, here's what I'd like you to do. I would like you to put into the chat a 1 to 5 on your understanding of everything that's due and what you need to do to finish it. So 5 would be, yep, I totally get everything, no questions. I'm gonna have this all done. A 3 would be somewhere kind of in the middle, like I think I'm okay. I might need a little bit of help, but I should be good. And then a 1 would be like, I'm super lost. I don't know. I might need some extra help in the lab. Okay. I got one from Quay. Thank you very much. Samira and our mystery iPhone person, because I still don't know who you are because you haven't changed your name, but um, feel free to throw those up in the chat as well. You know, a 1 to 5, how are you feeling with everything that's due and what you need to do? All right. Thank you, Quay, for giving me yours. So once you put that in the chat, all right, you are free to work on everything you need to work on to be caught up. All right. I will be here in the chat muted if you have questions. If you want to stay here in the chat and work on it while you're in here, in case you have questions, that's fine. If you want to leave the chat, work on it offline and pop back in if you have a question, that's fine too. But know that, again, um, the stuff for the last progress report is going in tomorrow, right? And then final product and everything else is going to be due end of next week, right? And we will only see each other again 2 more times, next Tuesday and then the last day of the term next Friday. Okay. So put your 1 to 5 in the chat yet if you haven't, and the rest of the time is yours to work on um, checkpoint two and the final product and all that stuff. Okay. Like I said, I'll be here in the chat muted. All right. And if you have a question with anything, just give me a shout. We got about um, 25 minutes or so left. So plenty of time to um, get at least checkpoint 2 finish if it's not already, and then start on the final product. Okay. So I will check back in periodically here, and if you have questions as you're working on anything, just give me a shout. Hey, good morning, Shad. How are you? So, Shadi, I don't have you on my attendance list, so you might be in the wrong link. So just double check your schedule. But if you have questions for me, you're more than welcome to come see me in the Summit Lab this afternoon from 1 to 3. But double check your links because I don't want you to be missing out on where you should be. If you're not sure where that is, let me know and I can try and find it for you.